The entire landscape was changing in Ted Turner's wacky wrestling world. I'm John Ruthven with the Retro Review of WCW Great American Bash 1996, taking place in the home of the Great American Bash pay-per-view, the Baltimore Arena, that hosted such events as the 1988 edition that I just recently retro-reviewed. Please check that out if you haven't already. That had a molten hot crowd that was so fucking electric. Okay, that's enough of that. Yeah, then that was kind of the peak of the Jim Crockett Promotion era. They would end up selling to Ted Turner. The Great American Bash pay-per-view concept would have a really good one as far as money and everything in 1989. They would do decent in 1990. 1991 was a low point. 1992 was a little bit better. They ended up winning 93, 94, and then 95. Things would start to bounce back a little bit. And then by 1996, winds of change were sweeping through the South Tower in Atlanta. They really should have gotten better insulation or maybe installed windows so wind wasn't blowing through and blowing everybody's paperwork around and making work impossible. What am I even on about anymore? Winds of change, though, in all seriousness. Hall and Nash had just come down for big money contracts, and they promised a third man, and they were going to do a hostile takeover at Bash at the Beach 1996. It ended up being a popcorn fart. Nothing big happened at that event. Of course, I fucking kid. The NWO was formed. Hogan cut the goddamn promo of his life, and WCW pounded WWE into the fucking dirt for 83 weeks, and boy, those ratings were really one side at one point, because they had the hot hand for a while. But this was pretty much a pay-per-view that was the catalyst for WCW starting their 83-week winning streak, because there was a certain thing here that really hooked people, and the crowd wasn't as big as one at the 1988 edition, but still pretty decent. 9,000 people, and they were hot for most of the show. Sure, there were a couple matches that weren't all that good. We started with Bobby Heenan, who's going to be the coach of Flair and Arn, for a tag match against Steve Mongo McMichael and Mean Kevin Green. And Randy Savage was going to be the coach for them. And basically the idea was Heenan had retired from managing, but he was going to do this. And he wasn't worried about Savage getting his hands on him, even though in classic Bobby Heenan fashion, of course, he was kidding. And he was just being a great goddamn heel. And then we get Savage with Green and Mongo talking, and Flair and Arn talk. And Luger and Giant cut brief promos about their match. It's going to be the main event for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. So we get Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman holding the flag for the national anthem. Did he end up doing much of anything? I don't think he really did much after this. Like, he had some matches, but they didn't really know what to do with him. Craig Pittman at least had some intensity. But anyway, the death of Dick Murdoch was mentioned by Tony Schiavone and Dusty. And they mentioned him watching from the best seat in the house. But oh no, Mr. card-carrying KKK member himself, Dick Murdoch with 3 Ks, if you know what I mean. He isn't in heaven. He's down there in hell. But anyway, yeah, rest in peace, Dick Murdoch. By the way, 25th anniversary of this show. They got to see the debut of somebody that never went anywhere in wrestling. I mean, I don't know why people made such a big deal about it. But anyway, the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, took on the team of Fire and Ice, Scott Norton and Ice Train. There must be a winner, because they've had so many skirmishes and so many matches that just ended in a big old fracas, not brackus. We don't want to ever end with brackus. I'm amazed the wrestling didn't end when they tried to bring Brackus in. But, God, that poor guy. He was just fucking doomed from the start. Anyway, Power Boys, and that was about it. Because all the guys are power guys, and they just tossed each other around. The crowd loved the Steiners. We get the Diving Bulldog for 2. Ice Train makes the save, and then a botched Frankensteiner on Norton really looked bad. Looked very bad. But the Steiners get the victory. And then Mean Gene is going to interview Jimmy Hart, and he says, "Jimmy Hart, you Nathan Lane wannabe." All right. Okay. And then Kevin Sullivan's there, and he says, "Benoit is no quitter, but he's no horseman. I'm going to drag Benoit through the building and make him suffer." Well, Benoit took that same strategy with role reversal 11 years later in June. I mean, I'm going to hell, but whatever. It's a fun ride. So we get El Gato, who is Pat Tanaka, under a mask, under a really lame mask. Not Battle Cat, but still just as bad. Versus Conan, U.S. title, and man, the crowd didn't care. And both these guys are good athletes. Crowd didn't give a shit. We get a jackknife cover after a few minutes, 1, 2, 3. And life goes on. Conan had a pretty good U.S. title run, but this just wasn't. This wasn't great because the crowd didn't give a shit. We get Mean Gene bringing Sting in to talk about his match with Lord Steven Regal, and Mean Gene called Regal prissy. And then Sting proceeded to insinuate that maybe Regal wasn't all man. He's a real man's man. But no, listen to this promo. 25 years after the fact, I go, holy shit, how did they get away with some of this stuff? But anyway, drinking your tea like this with your pinky out. And I'm not saying things like that, but goddamn, that was some weird verbiage. So we get DDP versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell in his American Males phase. It's in your head now. You're welcome. DDP was the king of the Battle Bowl ring. He was the Lord of the Ring. Which they had to really pivot from because, J.R. Tolkien was going to make them pay some tokens if they were going to keep using that. So anyway, or at least the estate would. So yeah, Bagwell got a jump start and it was fine. At one point, Bagwell gets straddled on the rope, and Dusty says, "You know how that's like when you practice, straddling the clothesline at home." And Schiavone says, "Well, I don't practice any moves at home, Dream." And he says, "That's not what I heard. My God." I believe there was a side that actually reminds me of something I heard on Cornette's podcast, but Tony Schiavone has a lot of kids. Him and his wife have a lot of kids, and they're happily married, and that's great. But it was some story where they arrived at at the airport for Crockett's plane, and Arn Anderson noticed all the kids in the station wagon, and he says, "Schiavone, you've got enough coming you to shampoo a buffalo." I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know if it's a Southern thing. It's funny, and it's just so weird. Weird way to say somebody has a lot of goddamn kids. But anyway, we get the Diamond Cutter 1, 2, 3. The commentary, Dusty didn't make a lot of sense on commentary. And I love Dusty, but he was just crazy on commentary, if you will. Then the Giant yells about Luger, and then Mike Tenay joins commentary for Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight Championship. Rey Mysterio's WCW debut. And he, of course, would not go on to do much of anything. He'd be out of the sport quickly. I kid, of course, he's still going strong, even when he's having to basically, watch his son get tossed into the seventh pit of hell by Roman Reigns on SmackDown. But the crowd wasn't sure how to receive this because there was a lot of groundwork, because Dean Malenko is the man of 1,000 holds. And for the first half, there was a lot of groundwork. And I mean, I'm not knocking, but you have to stick with it, and this match gets really good. It's a really good debut. Picks up with high flying and near falls. Rey Mysterio doing a senton outside, seated senton, and gain a hurricanrana, gain the West Coast pop that it would become later. And he would almost get the victory. And then Dean would hit a snap powerbomb, get his feet on the ropes, 1, 2, 3. And then they would have a return match. I want to say one of the Clashes. I think it would be one of the Clashes. And it was, actually, I think it was the August Clash, and it was after Ray had won the championship on the Nitro right after Bash at the Beach 96. So anyway, yeah, good debut though. Rey Mysterio shining here. And it's funny hearing the story, he didn't know his pay-per-view. And he's like, holy shit, I have to go out and perform in front of people. In front of a lot of people, that is. And, well, Ray certainly did it. If he was nervous, he didn't show it. So, Luger promo. He says, the Giant has changed the face of World Champion Wrestling forever. I want to say that I wrote that wrong. I didn't. He said World Champion Wrestling again. Lex Luger knows words. He just doesn't know how to put them together. And I thought Sid botched his promos a lot. So anyway, he says he's going to become Luger 3 belts. Well, he didn't say that, but he's going to have 3 championships. Because he's one half of the tag team champions and also the TV champion. Bit weird how they were going to possibly make him a Triple Crown champion. So anyway, we follow Ray and Dean Malenko with Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart versus John Tenta. On the episode where Scott Hall had made his return to WCW, yes, he was a Diamond Stud and he wasn't Scott Hall, but whatever, still making his return. Big Bubba had shaved, part of John Tenta's head, and John Tenta was out for revenge. They tried to make this match happen in 1996, and look, these are 2 big guys that weren't going to do head scissored and drop kicks and stuff like that, and they tried. It was bad. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. The crowd didn't care one bit. Power slam, 1, 2, 3. Tenta tries to cut Jimmy Hart's hair, and then cuts some of Bubba's goatee or his beard, which, even though it was a bit long, you're getting sharp objects with somebody struggling really close to your neck. I mean, it's a bit leery, but I was a bit, I think Tenta was like making sure because, Bubba was like doing this and he's like, holy shit, did I cut him? But yeah, that was something. And then it would lead to a silver dollars on a pole match. A sock full of silver dollars. Whew. Not necessarily great. Anyway, Kevin Green says that him and Mongo are coming hard, coming heavy. We're coming hard. Rest in peace, Kevin Green. I will say this. Mongo and Kevin Green did take wrestling seriously. I will give them credit for that. Benoit versus Sullivan, Falls Count Anywhere match. And it's not the last Falls Count Anywhere match that Chris Benoit would have in his career, especially in June. For those that say he needs to go in the fucking Hall of Fame, he fucking doesn't. Murdered somebody. He murdered a wife and child. You don't want to kick other murderers out, that's fine. He doesn't deserve to go in the fucking Hall of Fame. Poking and gouging the eyes. They're in the men's room. There's so many fans there, a lot of fans. Way filled to capacity. We can't use all these urinals at once. We can't team up. It's not a trough. What the hell are we all doing here? And then Dusty notices there's a woman in the men's room. Because, of course, Dusty would notice that. It was kind of funny. And then they go into the ladies' restroom. Let's see what that one's like. He's like, will you stop? And then back in the ring, we get a table out, and we get a superplex off of it, and Benoit gets the victory. I think they would have a following match at Bash at the Beach, but I don't fully remember. I think this wasn't quite the blow-off, but it was close. Sullivan would end up booking his own divorce, and then booked Benoit to beat him in wrestling and in life. So anyway, Benoit didn't win. He survived. Well, this time, again, I'm not apologizing. So Arn comes down, and then they both beat down Kevin Sullivan and everything because Arn's tired of being aligned with Kevin Sullivan. The Alliance and Hulkamania didn't work. Check out my Uncensored 96 review if you want to hear what I thought of that match. And then the Dungeon of Doom come out, and they take a powder. And then we get a promo with Arn, Benoit, Flair. And then Heenan's panicking and everything about this upcoming match. We get Sting versus the prissy Lord Steven Regal, according to both of them, with Jeeves. And look, this match did not need to go 16 minutes. That was an issue with some of these pay-per-view matches. Like, there were times where I understood why this match went a bit, but not. This could have easily been 12. They could have cut 4, maybe even 5 minutes off of it. Regal jaws with the fans, a lot of mat work. My God, a lot of mat work, but it makes sense because Regal's a very technical wrestler on the mat, as opposed to a technical wrestler in the air. Bit difficult to do that because physics. Sting would eventually get his 4th win, not Morrowind, and he would get the Scorpion Deathlock locked on and get the victory. And then get Bash at the Beachhead, and again, nothing noteworthy happened. I kid, of course, I kid. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, you people wouldn't be here. He was telling us how he felt in 1996. Flair and Arn with Woman. Liz. My God, Liz looked fucking great, as she always did. And Bobby Heenan. Coach Bobby Heenan versus me and Kevin Green. Steve Mongo McMichael with Deborah. Tara Green and Randy Savage. Coach Randy Savage. They gave us 20 minutes. They could have given it 15. They could have probably even given it 13. And I understand. Now, Green and Mongo took it seriously, and they knew to listen to Arn and Flair. They did, and they were there for everything, even with the awkward stuff, because they were trained athletes, but not trained wrestlers. But, Flair and Arn bumped their asses off. Eventually, the wives end up leaving. Savage actually attacks Flair because he's reinstated, and he's going to be able to wrestle the following night. So he attacks Flair and throws him back in the ring. The wives argue, and they leave. Woman and Liz, the women at ringside, because, Woman and Liz weren't married to any of the guys in the ring. Except maybe behind the scenes, but I digress. They all went away, and then Mongo got beat up, and then Green got tagged, and then Green was in the figure 4, and Deborah shows up with a briefcase full of money and a 4 Horsemen shirt. And Mongo's like, what the hell? Oh, I'll just turn on my friend. Kevin Green leaned into that briefcase shot, took it on the back of the neck. It looked kind of deadly. And then got, pinned 1, 2, 3, and Mongo joined the 4 Horsemen. All right. It was what it was. So we then get Eric Bischoff out on the stage and talking about the interruptions that they've had. And Hall and Nash come out, and he says, first things first, do you work for the WWF? They blank out the F, but whatever. And they say no. And, they forget about the past. He goes, it's like the big man and the medium-sized man and our surprise partner are going to carve them up. They say some other stuff, but basically, that's the gist of it. This is a pretty monumental moment in WCW's history. Bischoff's like, okay, he's had his say. You're going to have your say. Who are they? Well, no, I can't tell you tonight. I'll tell you tomorrow on Nitro. You don't jack us around. And Hall gut shots him. And then Nash jackknifes him through the Bischoff through the tables on just off the stage, and Nash protected him, and Bischoff tucked, but I was really worried that Bischoff broke his neck. That was pretty goddamn vicious. But it was a big moment, a cool moment, and then they would either panic and hope nobody remembered it, or maybe they were just trying to plant the seeds for Bischoff to become the leader, the de facto leader, the benefactor of the NWO soon after, even though DiBiase was the benefactor of the NWO in September, and then they just fucking forgot about that and just paid him to basically be a guy that was there. So anyway, everyone sold like crazy, especially Dusty. Says we can get our 3 guys and go to war with your 3 guys. Then Luger checks on Eric during his entrance. The Giant with Jimmy Hart versus Lex Luger, WCW title match. Could Lex rack the Giant? Well, he got his back beat up and then tried to when Giant got caught in the corner, caught in the spotlight, staring up at the spotlight. And then Luger tried to rack him. Giant fell on him awkwardly, hit the chokeslam, 1, 2, 3. That's about it. There really wasn't much to that main event, but it was fine. It was fine for what it was. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.